Chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Miller.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. If I could ask the staff why I'm making my opening comments. I see Jimmy Miller there putting up the slide that I asked for. Nope, wrong slide. I'm looking for the slide in the St. Clair River. And as they put that up, I'll tell you why I want to have the slide, because a picture worth a thousand words, certainly. Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member as well, I'm so appreciative of having this hearing, of you holding this hearing. As you know, one of my principal advocacies is protecting our magnificent Great Lakes. I know you share that passion as well, and certainly my colleague from Michigan. And I welcome all the Michiganians who are here today as well. It's not often that we have a committee hearing when we have so many Michiganians testifying, and I just welcome you here because I know you all share the same passion. We're from the Great Lakes state. We love our Great Lakes, as all the states do in the basin. Okay, we have a slide up here. Now, what we are doing today is what Congress needs to be doing, and that is exercising our responsibilities from an oversight standpoint. And my colleague from Marshall has articulated very well the situation that has occurred in his congressional district with a portion of this pipeline owned and operated by Enbridge Company, which is a Canadian company. Looking through, but you know, it has, for instance, a former Democratic governor from Michigan, Jim Blanchard, is on their board of directors. It's an international company. But you know, as I watched with horror, as everybody else did in Michigan, I think around the nation, what was happening in Battle Creek and Marshall, Michigan, there, just wondering if this oil, God forbid, were to get into the Great Lakes system, what that would actually mean. And of course, any oil spill is terrible. However, if an oil spill occurs over land, there are dynamics there. If an oil spill were to occur in the freshwater drinking supply for literally millions and millions of people, you have another situation beyond catastrophic. And as we all talk about with the Great Lakes, which is fully 1/5 of the freshwater drinking supply of the entire planet, 20% of the freshwater drinking supply of the entire world. That's why we have this passion about water quality and clean water. And, you know, I've watched this spill, as I say, in Marshall now. Since in the interim we've seen another Enbridge spill, unfortunately, in Illinois. Then we just read about one in just outside of Buffalo in New York. And I have been trying to really track and looking at the wiring schematics and the wiring diagram of where the pipeline emanates and where it's going to and how it impacts my district, how it impacts my state, et cetera. And as we exercise our oversight, being made sure that we are asking the right questions of not only the company but the regulators, certainly. And I think the entire nation has been sensitized, obviously, to spills and what they mean in the short term and the long term, when we all watched, the entire world watched what happened with Deepwater Horizon, which, you know, I sometimes tell my staff, I feel like I am watching a person bleed to death and I don't know how to stop it. And I think many people had that kind of reaction as we watched this terrible thing happen. I just mention that because I'm not suggesting that happened in this case, but we certainly have found that there was some cozy relationship between the regulators and the companies, and Congress needs to make sure that never happens. Now, this portion of this Enbridge pipeline, which emanates in Sarnia, Canada, and Mr. Chairman always laughs, as you know, as a member of, from Michigan, we always have the map of our state on the end of our arm, so I'm always holding up. But this is my district here. It's from about this knuckle to the tip of the thumb. But this is the St. Clair River. You're seeing a small portion of the St. Clair River, Sarnia, on the Canadian side, our wonderful Canadian neighbors. But this pipeline is coming from Sarnia. It's going across the St. Clair River here. The St. Clair River, obviously, is part of the Great Lakes system. That water is running. This is this is probably the fastest, maybe outside the St. Mary's River, but this is probably the fastest current in the Great Lakes Basin. It's running about 6 or 7 knots, and it runs much faster along the U.S. side there. So you can imagine if you just spilled a cup of water, or excuse me, a cup of oil, and how quickly that sheen would move when you have that kind of current. Think about an oil break there. Now, I am not trying to be an alarmist. On the other hand, I'm trying to do what I was elected to do, which is oversight for a company that may have a problem here. So as we looked at the list of anomalies, as they call them in the industry, the anomalies, we found that there was a dent, which is indicated on these overheads here. There's a dent about 300 feet off the U.S. side that Enbridge apparently found in '09, and the regulators are aware of this as well. Now, I just mentioned this, if you can just, again, I'm not trying to be an alarmist, but anybody can understand, God forbid, what would happen if we had any kind of an incident then. So we have to have absolutely zero tolerance. I did, this dent actually, and I've met, I will also say that myself and my staff met just last week. We had a long meeting with Enbridge in my district office in Michigan, and we talked about this. And I don't want to go too long in my opening statement here. I'll ask them other questions when I get an opportunity to ask the questions. But they indicated to me that they use very sophisticated testing equipment to, through their entire system to understand where the anomalies are and prioritize what they all are. But they found this dent in '09, August of 2009. It's about 40 years after that pipeline was installed. Although they told me that they think that this dent may have been there since 1969. That's when the pipeline was installed. So if they had this dent since '69, but they only discovered it in '09, it leads to a question about the sophistication of the technology that they are utilizing to inspect their entire pipeline. I would raise that. Also, this dent in the pipeline meets the federal regulatory requirements, which would require a repair within 60 days. I just lay that out there. I'll be pursuing this a bit more. But they were supposed to fix this dent within 60 days. Keep in mind, they found it in August of '09. So I mentioned that. And I would just say this, Mr. Chairman, because I appreciated your comments about the agency, some of the problems that the agency does not respond. It is endemic, and it has been that way. And certainly Representative Schauer mentioned the same thing. I had sent a letter on August the 3rd to Cynthia Quarterman, who's the administrator of the Pipelines and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, PHMSA as we call it. I've asked a lot of questions because I didn't want to come to this hearing and blindside anybody, either the regulators or the company. I've been asking these questions very openly, putting them in written form, so I'm not just blindsiding them at a congressional hearing. So they have plenty of time to give us the answer. And I was looking forward to questioning her today, although I know she sent her deputy, not herself. And I'm not making any allegations here. I'm just reading from a CBS News report that says the official who runs the federal agency that oversees pipeline safety recused herself from a federal investigation into the cause of a massive Michigan oil spill because she once represented the company in question when she was an attorney at a Washington, D.C. law firm. The Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration in the Department of Transportation is led by Cynthia Quarterman. She represented Enbridge Energy Partners, the U.S. subsidiary of the Canadian energy giant, responsible for the 800,000-gallon spill. Now, I don't know. I'm not suggesting there's a conflict of interest, but it's unfortunate she could not come. The administrator, the regulator, could not come to talk to us because she represented the company in charge. So I'll pursue that a bit more. And I would just close with this, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your leniency with my time as well. One of the other problems that I think has been articulated very well by Representative Schauer, and I have the same concern, is the coordination and communication between the company and the first responders in the area. And I have found that in my own area. This district is St. Clair County. I've talked to the emergency management director there. I've talked to the chief of the fire chief, the police chief of Marysville. That's the city that the pipeline comes into. And we just don't think that there's much. There's certainly the largest room is the room for improvement. We think there's lots of room to improve the communication between the company and the first responders. And preparing their emergency response. Again, God forbid that there's ever any kind of an incident, again, anywhere, and whether it's in my district or anywhere in Michigan, anywhere in this pipeline. So we're actually going to be having an informational hearing with our first responders in about 3 weeks, and we're also inviting all our Canadian counterparts, because you know one thing about the water in that river? The water doesn't know if it's in Michigan or Canada. It does not know. and people are drinking the water. So we include everybody on that. But I look forward to hearing from the witnesses, and again, I appreciate your leniency in giving me the time and this very, very important issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly those